What's up? What's up? What's up? This your man Mace right here down in the basement. Super glad that you're here with me. I am super excited every single time I get a chance to come here. I do this for fun. I think it's something that's important to do, and I want to recap real quick before we get going too much about what we talked about last week. Last week, we were at Amazement Talks, and what we were talking about was SMART goals. The name of the lesson was the toughest sale. And what we focused on was really the personal conviction. And what we agreed on was that no matter how many pats on the back you get, or no matter how much somebody tells you how good you are, you will never really reach your full potential unless and until you actually truly believe it. You're personally convicted that you are doing what you can do, that you are the best of the best, that you can get things done. So building on that, we're going to move forward, and we're going to talk about this week the proof after the promise. Here's what I mean by that. The proof after the promise is going to really address how we set goals, what we set, and then how we keep ourselves on track with those things. I've got a special guest that I have bringing in here earlier. Here in a little bit. His name is Dan Green. He's out of North Carolina, and I served with him in the Marine Corps for quite a few years. He was my boss, and a lot of the information and training and stuff that I received over the years, I received from him. So I thought that it would only be smart to take a look at the people who taught me in the past, and certainly reach back and pull them back into my life in terms of what I'm doing. So he'll be joining us here shortly. So let's talk about it, man. Those scripts, proof after the promise. Typically what we hear is, I hate you. You always say you're going to do something, you just never do it. And there's a lot of people who may be saying this to you. It could be people in your personal relationship. It could be the people at work. But either way, there's a reason for that. And it always starts with the same thing. What do I promise, and who do I promise it to? One of the things that we promise for people is that we're going to do something better with ourselves. We're going to be a better dad, or we're going to be a better husband, or we're going to have less time with the boys, or less time with the girls. We're not going to hang out as much. We're going to spend more quality time with you. We're going to quit drinking or smoking, or we're going to start working out. But somehow or another, we end up getting off track with what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And I think that every single time we get off track, it's typically for the same type of reasons. Now, it's because we don't provide proof. We don't provide proof that we're actually making progress. And when you have to give something up, if your life changes, all right, so if you say, I'm gonna work out more, well, that's going to require more time from you. If it requires more time, that's less time with something else you were already doing. And when that pain from taking away from that time and feeding into something else, well, your life is changing. And if you don't address those changes with the people you're changing for, including yourself, then you'll often revert back to doing what you were doing before. So try this on. Okay, proof defined: evidence establishing or helping to establish a fact or truth of a statement. When we talk about what proof is, what are we looking for? If I tell you, hey, I'm going to do X for you, I'm gonna spend more time for you, what type of proof are you actually looking for? Are you looking for me to sit at the house more? Are you looking, have we defined what quality time is or can be, and what we're going to do with that quality time? If we haven't made those definitions clear, then it's going to be hard for anybody to be able to provide relevant proof for you. Last week, we talked a little bit about the SMART goals, and SMART goals being specific. That's when you're setting these goals, and if that goal is to spend more time with you, then specifically what it is that you want me to do in order to spend time with you. That SMART goals continue to talk about measurable, and then attainable. Can you get it done? And then they have to be relevant. What am I expecting to gain from this? And then, of course, time bound. Now, when we talked about the SMART goals, we talked about SMART goals with intent. That's identifying, or at least imagining yourself being successful, imagining yourself actually accomplishing your goals. And then once you imagine yourself, narrow your focus on some small things that you can do in order to get those things done. When you're activating yourself, and when you're narrowing your focus and getting those things done, what you'll notice is that the proof that the people are looking for, the proof is in the pudding. It's you putting in some work. It's you actually doing some things that they can see. And as you train your mind to win, and you energize your body, and you keep track of your time, and you time yourself, then you can see over a course of time how well you're actually doing. The question is next: why do I need proof? I told you that I was working at it. Because the same reason you need proof is the same reason they need proof, because you've been lying for a long time about it. You keep telling people what you're going to do, and nobody believes you. Nobody believes that you're going to actually do it. You don't even believe it. You say it because it gets you out of trouble. It gets you out of the current situation that you're in, and being in that situation is never, ever comfortable. And the first thing we do, okay, you caught me. I'm sorry. I promise I'll do better. I promise I'll change things up. I promise I'll do this or do that. And then there's never any proof. So that's why you need to show proof. Because without proof and without the evidence of progress, the reality is regress. The reality is that you're moving back to doing some of the things that you continue to do. You're moving back to the stuff that you promised that you wouldn't do anymore. Those are the things that were plaguing your relationship in the first place. And I'm not just talking about a relationship between a husband and a wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever their relationship may be, even your dog for that matter. You keep telling him you're going to show him up to take him out, and every single day he's sitting in the kennel looking at you like, man, I knew that joker wasn't going to show up. I knew it. He does this every single time. Had me here waiting all day. So it's important that you understand that without evidence of progress, the reality is regress. We'll take a quick look at some of these comments here so I can at least acknowledge some of my good people. Matt Young, good to see you. Well, man, Church, good to see you, man. 2 weeks strong. My man, I appreciate you being here. All right, so let's get right back at it. To whom should I show proof? Well, first of all, you got to show yourself proof. You have to be able to identify that you have made progress in a lot of different ways. Making yourself vulnerable to being examined gives you an opportunity to show that proof. Showing proof that you've actually made some progress is what makes the difference. Who benefits from the evidence of proof? That's kind of a no-brainer and a rhetorical question. Anybody who's involved in the promise. The proof that you're actually doing something is designed to benefit you and the people who you promise you do it. There's no sense in making promises that you have no intent whatsoever in following through with. That's just called manipulation. All right. And that's ridiculous for you to ever expect some growth in it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a break before I tell you about the acronym, okay, what proof is and the method of getting through it. And I'm going to talk a little bit with Dan Green. I'm going to bring him in here. I had a little technical difficulties earlier. Hopefully that's kind of worked itself out. Hey, Dan, are you there?
I'm here, man. What's going on with you?
Okay, good, man. Good to see you. So I think you've been tuning in. First of all, I told also many years on recruiting duty, a lot of the insight and the talks that we've had over hours and hours about what we do as leaders, whether it be a leader in our family or a leader at work. I talked to you earlier, and really I wanted to know that when you talk about providing evidence for people or making promises to people, you had mentioned earlier that a few different examples of how people make promises maybe at work and they don't follow through with it and what they're looking for. Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. In this subject, when we were having this conversation, I kind of resorted back to my experience on recruiting duty, where, at times I was an NCOIC, in charge of a recruiting office and 3, 4, 5, 6 other Marines, excuse me. And I was responsible for like their training and it may sound crazy to some people, but one of the things that is, as we all know, is vitally important in making people better, making people sharper is training. But when it came down to it, when things got hectic and we needed to, we were pressed for time, one of the things that we always would cut away from first would be training, because then in my mindset, I was like, I don't have time to train. Now, keep in mind, I've always promised my Marines, like every Monday or every Friday, pick whatever day, we're going to do training. We're going to get better. We're going to get sharper. But then when that day came, it always seemed like something else was more important, or we were behind the gun and I didn't have time to train. Looking back, and as I gained more experience, what was really happening was I was really, really disorganized. And because I was disorganized, everything is important right now, instead of having things that's a priority, number 1, number 2, number 3. So, when you went into, you talked about lies, it was basically, I lied that every Monday we were going to do training when I had every intention on doing it. But then, as soon as it came time to do that, the phone would ring and I'd get a call from ops, or I get a call from somebody else, and I got to stop training to do this. And eventually you just put it on the back burner, and it never happens. You know what I mean? And that was, that was the thing I think that got in the way the most when we were having that conversation. That it reminded me of, of lying to my subordinates, not intentionally, not on purpose, like lying to deceive them, but lying because I wasn't prepared enough, and I wasn't, capable of organizing myself at the time to the point where I did all the things that I told them I was going to do for them to make them better.
Sure, man. So let me ask you this. Now that happens to people kind of unconsciously. It happens. Right. It's like I wanted to do it, I just couldn't do it, man. And something else came up that was urgent. It was a priority. But that's still, if we do that over and over and over again, that stuff kind of piles up, and it develops an attitude amongst our subordinates and our loved ones. Talk to me a little bit about what attitude that builds for somebody who's expecting training, who's not getting it, or expecting you to do something and you don't do it.
Okay. Say for example, you got a new recruiter, when you first sit down kneecap to kneecap with him, and you're explaining to him, how things work. And, every Monday I'm going to provide training with you. I'm going to do all these things to make you better. And then those things never happen. It's a good chance that Marine or that subordinate, if you're not in the Marine Corps, whatever you're in, whatever industry you're in, it's a good chance that subordinate, the next time you tell him something, he's not going to believe it. Especially if you say, okay, we're going to do training on Friday. He's going to plan something, or she's going to plan something else for that time period, because he or she already knows that that's probably not going to happen. And they lose confidence in you. And when they lose confidence in you, it's a good chance that they can lose trust in you as well. Same thing with a wife or a kid, or, you promise your kid, I'm going to come to your ball game, and somehow you never show up. He quits looking for you to show up because he's already, or she's already convinced himself that mom or dad is not going to show up. So why am I going to get my expectations high just to be disappointed again?
Man, I couldn't have said it better myself. I keep looking at these things as friends, and as family, and as, subordinates, or even my superiors, and everybody who I work with, trying to accomplish a goal that we all agree that's important. And we'll sit down kneecap to kneecap, and we'll talk about it. We'll have a coaching session, and we'll say, you know what, I think this is important because, hey, what do you think we should do about it? So we go through that process, and we give as much as as much of ourselves as we can in terms of making the promise. And I think we have full intentions in doing it. I think we know the benefit of doing
it.
But something happens, some of these obligations that we already have, that we have to either, reprioritize those and say that's not that important, and that training is more important, or this work event is not that important, and maybe spending time with you at your ball game is more important, or maybe going to the movies and doing that date night thing that we talked about so we can rekindle our relationship. Like, all these things are important, and we try to put something else in a lower category, and that thing starts to suffer. And I think for me, and this is just me personally, some people agree, some people disagree, but sometimes I think I know everything. And
I would agree.
You think? I bet you would, man. But sometimes I think I know everything. So if I'm going to work, and I know my work really requires a lot of hours, and I say, okay, work's require a lot of hours because I got to make some money because I want to provide for my children, and and I want to go up, take my wife on this vacation, or whatever that thing may be. If I promise to do something like spend more time with her, I feel like that I'm penalizing myself by not being able to provide for her. So I often revert back to working a little bit more, and then making excuses about why I'm not doing things. And here's where I'm at with the acronym, P.R.O.O.F. It's about taking those things, understanding that they exist. Proof is an acronym that I use to describe what we do when we're in cases where we keep making those excuses or keep reverting back to things we did before. That's periodically review our obligations and obstacles, and then force to fix. What I specifically mean by that is periodically, meaning every so often. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once every 2 weeks, but schedule a time to go back and look at everything that I promised I'd do, and then look at the obligations. Those are the obligations that I said, hey, I'm going to do more of this for myself. I may be going to the gym or whatever that obligation that I've made. And then I look at the obstacles, and the same person that I sit in front of, kneecap to kneecap, say, hey, these are the things that I feel like are preventing me from doing as well as I promised that I do. And I really want to fix that. So I kind of got to go back to the drawing board to fix those things. You know, do you think that same process is the same process and is a good process in order to get back on track and stay on track with your obligations?
I absolutely think it is. One of the things that I find that helps me, and it's similar to what you just described, is trying to develop a plan. And I'm still old school plan. Like I still need to write things down because when I write it down, it helps me remember it. But if I write it down, say like in a planner or something, and I give it a specific date and a specific time, the more things that you write down, you will begin to realize that every promise that you make to somebody to do something at a certain time, if it's not written down and you're not keeping track of all your promises and giving them a specific date and a specific time, you may have promised 2 or 3 people with every intention on doing it and getting the thing done. You may have promised 2 or 3 people the same time slot to do 2 or 3 different things. So for me, writing it down absolutely helps. Because I think, it's not a matter of good intentions. I think we all have good intentions to do all the things that we say that we're going to do. But if those 2 things conflict with each other at the same date, at the same time, like you scheduled a meeting, or your boss, for example, may have said, hey, Mark, I need some time to sit down with you and talk about X, Y, and Z. How does Friday at 5 sound? Sounds good, boss. I'll be there. Well, Friday at 5 is your daughter's basketball game that you just totally forgot about. Instead of having like a schedule or something, you could say, let me check my schedule and get right back with you. Or some people are tech savvy. They might have it in their phone and stuff. I'm not that guy. But I think that having good intentions is great. But if there's no plan to achieve all those intentions, it's hard.
Yeah, man. I was looking at Avon Paul chimed in. And he said, Green said it best. He said, prioritizing life by importance.
Avon Paul, my man.
Yeah. You remember that guy, don't you?
Yeah, man.
So, and I agree with him, man. My hardest thing is writing it down, and I write it down like going back at it. And I think if you don't plan, not prioritize, but if you don't periodically review your plan. I remember being on recruiting duty as well, and we had a scheduling results book. We called the SNR book. All the things we scheduled, all the things we had results, what the actual results were. But we had to go back in that book daily, sometimes hourly, and review what the plan was, because at some point in time, building that plan was important. It was supposed to accomplish something. It was supposed to yield some type of results. And if it's going to yield those results, then I got to actually execute it. And everything that I'm looking at that tells me what should happen, everybody keeps saying the same thing. You got to write it down. You have to write it down. I'm looking at Reginald Silverback Jones. I've learned to use my digital calendar lately before committing. Okay. And that sounds to me like old Silverback Jones there has learned that when somebody asks him to do something, the first thing he says is, hold on 1 second, let me check my calendar. That used to be
important.
Yeah. That used to be like a running joke. Man, you ain't that busy. Hey, let me check my calendar. I may not be that busy right now, but when it's time for me to do what I told you that I do, you're gonna be mad if I was too busy to help. And that digital calendar I've tried, with my iPhone, me and my wife and my children, and as many things that we all have going on, sports and all that stuff. Other than the digital and the calendar, I don't know what else is out there. Do you know of any other things that are out there? It's a buddy to help you, remind you, somebody else calling you and say, hey, man, secretary, or something like that.
Well, I don't have a secretary. I can't afford one of them. But, like I've seen people, man, and I think it may be partly like generational, where writing things down works best for me. You may have somebody who the idea of writing something down might be totally old school to them. But for me, writing it down, it helps me remember it a little bit better because I actually wrote it. And then number 2 is, it's I write it down, but you said a minute ago, you actually have to go back, like what Silverback Jones said. You actually got to go back and check it before you commit to a specific date, time, and event. Go back and look and see if you have anything else scheduled for that. That's in a planner. I print out, like every day I print out for my t-shirt business. I print out like a daily plan and I write down all the things that I want to get done that day. Don't get all of them done every day, but it helps with, conflicting priorities, committing to 2 or 3 different things at the same time. There's tons of apps, whether you got a Samsung phone or iPhone, tons of apps that you can use, but you just have to find something that works for you. So it might be a combination of the two. You may find the perfect app that works. It all depends on what you like, but I think we all should at least give an effort to prioritize things so that the little things don't get in the way. And if you would, let me go on for one other minute.
Sure.
There's like Franklin Covey used to be the planner that I would use a lot. And one of the videos, he had like this big canister, right? A glass canister. And he had big rocks and medium-sized rocks and little rocks. And the goal was he would call somebody out of the crowd and say, hey, fit all of these rocks, big, little, medium-sized, all into this canister. So people would come up and they'd put the big rocks in, then they put the little rocks. They couldn't get them all to fit. Then some people would come put the little rocks in and vice versa. Well, the big rocks are the most important things in your life. The medium-sized rocks, they fall secondary. And the little rocks are just the tons of stuff that we need to get done each day. And nobody could do it. So when he came up and he did it, he put the big rocks in first. He put the medium-sized rocks in. Then he took the little rocks and poured them in. And they all fell into place around the big and then the medium-sized rocks, which kind of, clues you into the point that the big things are important. You do those first. You do the secondary things, and the little rocks, they just fit. They get in where they fit in, and that's kind of how I approach things. Where there's certain things that's important that you have to get done, but it goes back to what you mentioned earlier. It goes back to what you make a priority. If you make time with your kids a priority, you'll find a way to get that done. If you make time with your wife a priority, or things that you need to do at work, if you make those a priority, you get those things done as well. So it's just a matter of, each one of us has to determine what's most important to us. And then once you determine that, take action.
Action, man. I'm glad you used that word because that moves me more than anything else, man. The priorities that are strong enough to drive action on recruiting duty, we call those the priorities that was so important that it would actually make you do something. Stop what you're doing. Go here. Revert back to doing what you're supposed to do. I don't know what you're trying to show me.
Nothing.
Oh, okay, cool. So those things that require action. That's following that same Franklin Covey. Stephen Covey wrote a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in that book, he talked about the quadrants and the 4 quadrants and how in those quadrants, what they described was things that were important but not urgent. And if we stayed in the first, in the I think it was the first and the second quadrant or third quadrant and stayed out of the 4th quadrant, then we'd be a little bit more effective at getting things done. I'm working on a mathematical equation, and the part of this equation, some years ago, if I said this equation to you, you'd be looking at me like, Mason, it's too much, man, too much. I'm gonna tell you anyway. The basis behind the equation is this right here. Given that X equals you got to solve for Y. And what that really means is that if you are the variable and your effort is the variable, what you have to figure out is why you're doing these things. Why is it so important? Why is this a top priority? Who's going to benefit from this? How are they going to benefit? And is this something that's going to be beneficial to my family as a whole? The proof method, I believe in dearly because it's something that stays in the front of my mind. When I tell somebody something, they say, okay. And I say, no. Tell me to prove it. Make me prove it. If I'm setting appointments for people to come in and buy cars, I say, hey, I'm going to have the car pulled up front and I want you to make me prove it. Well, how would I do that? Show up to the appointment. That's how you do it. All right. So it works pretty well. So, but the point is that I just want people to realize that if you're going to set goals, if you're going to tell people you're going to do something, just do what you said you're going to do. Just do what you said you were going to do. And I know that it's easy to get off track, but it's easier to stay on track. If you work with a positive mental attitude, you have a goal in mind, you have the end in mind, and you use a proof method where you are periodically reviewing the obligations that you made, the objections and the obstacles that you are running into, and then find a fix. Don't just identify them with no fix, but find a fix to it, get right through it, and make these things happen for yourself. So, hey man, I just want to tell you that I really, really appreciate you, man. You've always been a mentor for me. Every time I got something to bounce off somebody, I run right to you. And I appreciate all of the digital help you've given me. For people who don't know, Dan Green is the owner, operator, CEO, CXO, and all the other O's and O's for Bull City T-shirts. He does printing on T-shirts. Hey, Daniel, can you tell us how to find you online?
Yeah, I'm online. I'm on Instagram at Bull City T-shirts. No space, just all one word, at Bull City T-shirts. I have a website. It's bullcityt-shirts.com. And if you want to, I do mostly custom work. So if you want to collaborate on getting some shirts or coffee mugs or coasters, all kinds of stuff done, my phone number is 919-280-2294. You can text me, you can call me, hit me up on IG, whatever works for you. I'm here for you.
Cool, man. And you've made me some stuff in the past. Fantastic quality, super fast shipping. He did a fantastic job for me. So if you got something for your work, y'all doing shirts, if you're doing something like we call them things, family reunions, if you want to do whatever kind of shirt you want to do, cat is cold with it. Okay. Hey, look, one thing that I saw that I thought was a very, very good comment that I would be remiss if I didn't share it. Mr. Silverback himself said that and learn to be okay with not making someone else's priority and or event due to owns without regret or guilt. And I think what he means by that is that, hey man, it's okay to not make everything a priority. Okay, and not make that right there is not important with what I'm trying to get accomplished. Because when you make everybody else's stuff a priority for you, then they're gonna throw your schedule way off. So again, Dan Green, leader, mentor, motivator, lead, motivate, and inspire, man. I certainly appreciate you being here with me. I'm gonna do a quick recap with everybody, and then that's gonna be the end of the night, man. I appreciate you being here, brother.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here.
All right, hey guys. So I appreciate y'all being with me. I appreciate all of the insight and the information that you shared with us. Let me do this here so I can look like I'm technically savvy. Real quick, let's talk in review. What we talked about tonight was the proof method, okay? And that is periodically reviewing the obligations you've made, the obstacles that are getting in the way of those things, and find a fix. Don't just simply figure out what's going on and not fix it. You have to get back to figuring those things out, okay? What are you promising? All right, what are you promising? Are you making promises that you just flat out cannot keep? Because if you are, you and whoever you're making these promises to are going to continue to be disappointed. You're going to continue to go through these scripts of you walking in the house or you walking into work, and the person who's counting on you, you keep letting them down. I knew you weren't going to do it, man. I knew the boss wasn't going to come in here and do training today. He always wants us to be better, but everything else always becomes more important, okay? Because after you make that promise, you need to be talking about where is the proof that you're making progress. You have to be able to literally look and see and be able to easily identify where the progress is. And if you cannot easily identify progress, you're not making progress. You're making excuses and you're manipulating the situation to make it look as if you're doing something and you're actually not. The proof method. Try it out. Don't forget about intent. Those things are super strong. I am super motivated, man. I'm glad that we talked tonight. I'm glad I had my very good friend Dan Green on the line with me. He always comes through for me. I am looking to continue to add to the number of people that I talk to online. I think it's important. I think I get more interaction with people who are out there. I think it's important to be able to voice your opinion. Some of you are afraid to come on the show live. Hey, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I was afraid too. But until I did it and figured out, ain't that big of a deal. And if you don't want to come on, I got to wait for you to just call in. We can still just kind of talk through it. I'm okay with that. If you have questions or if you have comments or if you have anything that you would like to add, just add it to the comments below. I'll review it. I may even go next week and take a look at it and see if that's something that we need to, look back at. I'm okay with that. But don't simply have an opinion. Keep it to yourself. It's not helping anybody, okay? It's not helping anybody. And if you got stuff that'll help other people and you're not sharing it, you're a punk. I don't love you, all right? And I'm just playing. But I do want you to share it. I do want you to benefit from this, but I want you to contribute. Okay, I want you to contribute and take pride in what you know will be helpful for other people. Guys, thanks so much for spending the time with me. I'm gonna see you next week. Same time, same bat time, same bat channel. I want you to make sure that you go on YouTube, take a look at me. We have Masement Talks on YouTube. Like and subscribe. I need your help there. Okay, like this video. Tell me what you liked or didn't like about it. I'm glad you're here. I think my mom and daddy are watching. Oh, what? Hi, Mom. You know, and I like stuff like that, man. So look, I'm motivated. Tell me some topics y'all want to talk about, man. Ask me a question about how I feel about some things. I'd be glad to give you a motivated response. Thanks to Tommy Moy pushing me all week long in 90 days of discipline. Some of you have seen that stuff on my Facebook page, on my timeline, or whatever it's called. 90 days of discipline. If you're interested, just hit me up, man. I'll shoot you an invite. It's about training your mind. It's about training your body, eating well, getting better at being you. Thanks for being here, guys. Y'all be safe. And one of my friends told me my music sucks, so I'm not going to play music tonight. I'm just tell you peace. I catch you next time. Y'all be safe. This is Mace here in the Basement. Masement.